Hope everybody's still okay and and still with me and things like that. So we're going into our final kind of hour, final lesson, and then at the end, yeah, then we'll go into a kind of a Q&A, troubleshooting, where to next, etc. Because this is just a taster and just an introduction, and there's lots that could have been covered, but hopefully like some of these modular bits will allow you to at least start to go away and experiment and explore, make some things, but also know where to go in case you want to do something else. Like for example, we haven't even covered text, for example, being able to write onto the screen. Again, you can look in the reference and take a little look, find something around text, and you can see, oh look, there's a function called text, and I can write the text in, and I'm positioning it at the X position and the Y position. So, lots of things follow the same kind of idea in the way in which I've been showing you today. Okay. I'm going to start something new, but some of this functionality that we've been doing, I'm going to recreate into this third sketch. So I'm just going to make sure I file save, file new, and I'm just because we're going to be doing some funky things, I'm going to rebring in the var CNV. CNV is equal to create canvas. Going to put the background command inside the setup. And have the function key pressed again. I could have copied and pasted this from before, but I have kind of like a muscle memory, and also just get used to the habit of my P5 pick 2, very unimaginative file names there. Okay, I just get into the habit of creating from scratch. It's a method and a way in which I've learned by retyping. Okay, so this is going to be our third one, and in this one we're going to be uploading an image and drawing with that instead. So we're going to create like an image drawing tool, so something a little different here. Because of the way the web works, for security reasons, we're going to have to upload our picture into the P5 editor so that we're then able to reference it later. And so we're going to just open up the sidebar, which we haven't done before. So right here above the number 1, we've got this little arrow box, and when you highlight over it, it goes yellow. And I'm just going to click this, and you'll notice it opens up this sidebar called Sketch Files. And this isn't something I've kind of talked about, but the way the modern web works is usually a website is made up of 3 components. You have the HTML page, which is the main structure, the HTML page that documents the structure of what stuff is going on the page. You have something called a style sheet, a CSS, which is how does that stuff look? How is that styled? And then you have the JavaScript page, which is the code for any kind of interactivity or anything that requires code. This editor kind of does all of those bits for you, but if you're curious, you can have a little peek and see the HTML code. And you can also take a look at the style sheet as well, if you so wish. But the main one we want to make sure we're on is sketch.js. So make sure that you don't click on the style sheet and come back and then start to type your code in here, because it's not going to work. So we'll make sure we're in the .js, short for JavaScript, which is our code. Anyway, while we're here, this is where we're able to upload images so that we can reference them. Now, one thing, Often when you download an image off the internet, it's got really long file names. Sometimes it's got, you know, letters and numbers and all sorts like that. You should rename that file before we put it in here, because you're going to have to type that file name in, and we want to be as efficient as possible and type the least amount of code. Hence my cat picture that I've got is called cat. So yeah, it's worthwhile renaming that picture. How do we upload those? Well, you can see here, it's a little bit tiny, so bear with me, but I'm going to just tap in, double tap so that you can see. Where it says sketch files, we've got index.html, sketch.ts, we've got this little arrow just here, and if we click this arrow, we've got the ability to upload a file. I'll click that, I'll tap out, and the upload file gives you to drop files here, so you can drag and drop your file on, or you can click and it will open up. I'm just going to move this out of the way. I'm going to click and drag and drop my cat picture onto the upload file box. Let's move that back. And it gave a little tick, and hopefully that means that that has worked. Great stuff. We can also see it here on the left-hand side in the list of files. So I know that that has actually worked. Let me just check. Cat picture. Yeah, there's my cat pic, index, and sketch. Okay, great. So it's uploaded my picture. If for some reason you didn't rename it, you can actually click, hang on, let's zoom in. You can actually click on the file name here, and on the drop down, you can now rename it if you so wish. Okay, once we've actually uploaded our picture, it's now available to us within our sketch. There's some code that we need to load that picture inside a variable, and then we can use that variable to then, we can display that using a function that will then display the contents of that variable. So similar to the way we put the canvas inside a variable, and then using the save command, we can extract that and save it as a picture. We need to do the same with images. I'm just going to drop into the chat in case there's any problems. Yes, certainly not a problem. Let me just show you that again. Rosny, right. So what you can do, let me come back. So we're in our normal sketch window. Just next to where it says sketch.js, below the play button, we can click to open the arrow so that we've now got a list of sketch files. Next to where it says sketch files, there's this tiny little drop down arrow here. It's not very big, I know. We click that, and then we get the chance to upload file, which opens up this dialog box here. We can then drag and drop the file onto this box, or we can in fact click and it will open up our window to find something. So we can click, let's go to the desktop, and I can click cat open, and then that should start to upload the picture. You'll see a progress bar go across, and you should see like a little tick icon when it has uploaded. I've actually got 2 copies now, so I'm just going to delete that so I don't confuse. How's that? I'll just give you a second to make sure everybody has got their picture uploaded. Okay, fantastic. All right then, so if everybody's got their picture uploaded, that's great. What we can do is now look at creating a variable to hold that, then loading the image into that variable, and then displaying that variable using a function. I'm going to close that sidebar now so that we don't need that. We know that that's working. All right then, so I'm going to online 2. I'm going to make a var. I'm just going to call this img1, short for image1. because we can load more than one. Again, you'll notice a lot of this code I'm teaching you is modular. You want 1 circle, 3, 10, you can just copy and paste. var img1. Now let's go into the setup, and I'm going to click on here, and what we're going to do is we're going to load that in. We're going to load the image in. So line 7, then I'm going to say img1 is equal to load image inside the curved bracket semicolon. Inside here, inside the single speech marks, I write the name of the file. So this is why we renamed it. So I'm going to write in here cat.jpg. And so you write the name of the file. Okay. And if we run this code, hopefully we don't get any errors. And we should be loading that image into that variable, which is great. Okay, nothing's happening yet because we haven't told the computer to use the function, but I'm mitigating any errors that might appear. So the errors that could appear here now is if we spell the name wrong. So I'm just going to spell the file name wrong, for example, and try to run this code. Okay, here we go. And I got some crazy bunch of errors here inside the console. So that's where there might be a problem. Or if you've not done the correct extension. So maybe I thought it was cat.png. Nope, that's also an error. Okay, so you just want to be making sure before we continue any further that it's able to load that image in and not give us an error. Great stuff. And if we can't remember, we can just open the sidebar and just make sure it's there. Okay, great. So we've loaded that image in. Now we want to draw it on the screen. And the way this works is it's fairly similar to the way the rectangle function works, is that we draw it from the top left corner. And it draws the image out for us like a rectangle. So we have to specify the X and Y position, which is in the top, and then it will draw it out for us. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to pick the middle of the screen. So inside the function draw, let's use the command, and it's actually image is the command, and it's going to take in 3 things. The first thing is the variable, which is img1. That's the actual thing we want to draw. Then it's the X position across and the Y position down. That is the top left-hand corner for our picture. So, I mean, you could pick 0, 0, so it draws it in the top corner, but I just want to demonstrate by drawing it at 400, 400. So you can see there has my picture been brought in from the top corner. Well, that doesn't look like my cat. Okay, let's have a little think here. The image itself will be however big that image is. So that actual picture of my cat is 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels because I took it on a high definition. So that's way, way bigger than my canvas is. So I need to resize that picture to make it fit. I'm actually just going to put mine in the top corner, 0, 0, just so you can see mine's going to fill the whole thing. So I can start to see that there's my cat. And I picked a square picture on purpose because we have a square canvas that's 800 by 800. So in a minute, you're going to see, if you don't have a square picture, you'll see something a little different. What I can do is add another 2 numbers, just like with the rectangle, where we specify the width of this image and the height of this image. So I can specify, like, say, 100, 100. So it's going to, if I use my thumb to cover this bit up, these last 4 numbers are the same as drawing a rectangle, right? Start in the top corner and draw it by however many pixels wide, by however many pixels tall. So it's the same function as the rectangle. So if I want this to fill the whole thing, I could make this 800 by 800. So start at 0, 0, which is the top corner, and draw it 800 wide by 800 tall. That's going to fill the whole screen. Now, if you've got like a non-square picture, it's potentially going to look a little bit squished, but you know, that's something that you can look at, you know, and of course you can squish it on purpose if you wish. Hey, let's draw it like that. I'm going to specify how many pixels tall and how many pixels wide. Let's have a think about some of the fun stuff we did in the last one then. Well, hang on. If we're specifying the exact coordinates to draw this, can I use my mouse instead? Yeah, we can. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to make my cat picture a little bit smaller. But instead of drawing it at 0, 0, why don't I draw it at the mouse X position and the mouse Y position? Oh, now I'm no longer drawing with a circle, I'm drawing with a picture. So all of the stuff that we did before, like we can now do not with just basic shapes, but we can do with an image. Now, from an artistic point of view, if we happen to be, you know, a visual artist, graphic artist, designer, we can now start to do some fun, funky things with our pictures. You know, from a process point of view, you know, I can now start to draw with them and make new versions if I so wish. Sorry, I'm just going to draw lots of pictures of my cat now because that's funky, and draw like a little. You get the idea. It's the kind of the solitaire effect, isn't it? You know, that we used to have. Anyway, sorry, I'm having too much fun here. But you know, we can now start to manipulate that. We can totally do the same. You're going to say to me, yeah, but what about color? Does that mean the fill command will work? Unfortunately not, because the fill command is for shapes. But we could use the tint command, which is for images. So we could say tint and put in some numbers here now. So maybe, I'm sorry for my cat, but maybe I want to set the tint to green. That now means that the picture has been tinted green. We'll find that it starts to run a little slow on the computer because these are quite computationally heavy kind of things that can be being done here, but it's definitely something that you can play around with if you so wish. Does that mean we can use the random numbers? Of course we can. So we could take all of the random numbers that we've done before and also apply that onto the images that we're uploading and playing with. So we can start to do some interesting fun stuff. I'm going to undo the tint command just because I'm trying to live stream to you and run this, and I want this to stay nice and fast. So we've now got the fact that we can draw with our image, and we can mix and match this with all the other stuff. So what you'll see is, how did I get an image into the code? It's really only 3 lines. A variable to set up the container, the load image command that loads that picture into that variable, and then this image command to display that image. So if we wanted another picture, the process is the same. Upload another picture, create another variable, load the picture into the variable, and draw that. So we could now start to collage stuff, and we could start to do some digital collaging, and actually we could maybe take something that we've created, maybe in Photoshop or something like that, and save each one as a separate layer, and then throw some randomness in so that it relayers it and positions it, and get new kind of abstract interpretations of our work. It's about thinking about how can we use code as a tool for expression, as well as it is about, you know, what is the right code to do the right thing. You know, there's a real element of experimentation and play. Talking about that, what I'd really like to do is, many of you may have seen the sign up picture when we signed up to the workshop, there was a sign-up picture of my cat, but it was like cut into lots of different squares that were rearranged. What I'm going to do is just show you a slightly advanced kind of creative technique that does that, so that we can finish on something that's a little bit like kind of funky and reminds me of kind of, you know, 60s painters who would, you know, cut up images into squares and then rearrange them to make new versions. I think that's an interesting use of all of the stuff that we've learned so far, where we can use random numbers, we can take a portion of an image, because this is now on the onto our canvas. Let's take a portion of our canvas and move it around. So we're going to start to combine all of these kind of thoughts and processes that we've done so far. Okay, and we'll do, yeah, let's do, should we do 2 types? Sure, why not? Hopefully everyone's feeling confident and okay on this. Let's do 2 different versions. Yeah, why not? Just get my reference code up so that I yep. Okay. Let's do the copy command, shall we? All right then, we're going to just do a couple of new bits of code. Stuff that we haven't kind of looked at before as well. So I'm gonna file save this. Grape dinosaur. This is just dd3 underscore drawing with JPEGs. File save. Excellent, excellent. And so that we don't recreate all of this again, what I'm actually going to do is go file, duplicate to make an exact copy of this sketch. Because if I was to go file new, not only have I got to type all this in again, I've also got to upload the picture. So I'm just going to say duplicate, which will make a duplicate copy, because it definitely says copy here. And I'm just going to rename it straight away as dd4 underscore collage image. Okay. Just so that I've got both kind of versions. But again, don't worry, because these will be shared with you at the end. Okay, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to think about things a little bit differently here. What we're going to do is we're going to display our image on the screen, and what we're going to do is we're going to then use some random numbers to take a position and take a square, like a rectangle of the canvas, and move it to a new position. Okay, so the last half an hour is going to be a couple of advanced techniques and thoughts. So I'll make sure there's some pause points, but this might be the bit that you might want to, you know, replay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to empty the function drawer at the moment. Okay, so all I'm doing at the moment is loading in the cat picture, and I'm actually going to draw it into the yeah, I'm actually going to draw it into the setup instead. So image img1 800 800. So I'm just gonna, it's almost like this is a background image. Okay, so I'm going to load it and draw it in, except I can't, because of course it won't have loaded fully. Okay, so yeah, they made some changes, didn't they? Okay, so there's a new thing coming on. Okay, so from security point of view, if we want this image to be ready to be able to be used, there's something called a function preload. If anyone's ever like right-clicked on a website and stuff, when or a website that's got like loads of images and stuff, you know, sometimes when you load it, it takes a little while to load, or there's a load bar. It's because it's fetching all that information and downloading it before it can display it. I was just trying to shortcut that process. which I'm not going to be able to do. So rather than do loads of stuff, I will just put it back in the function draw, and then we'll manipulate it. We'll manipulate it afterwards instead. At the end, I can talk about some of these kind of advanced techniques. The thing with coding, just as an aside, is there is always more than one way to display a cat. There's always more than one way to do the same task, right? Sometimes it's what's the shortest code. Sometimes it's what's the most memory efficient. Sometimes it's what is the way in which I want to do this because it fits within my creative process, and so on. And sometimes that's the syntax I've got to use, so that's the way I have to do it. So there's always lots of different ways of doing things. So yeah, we'll go with this way for now. Okay. So what I can do is I can take a portion of this image and I can display it in a different place. Okay, so what I want to do is I just want to demonstrate that using like the mouse pointer. So I'm going to use the mouse to move over somewhere, and it's going to select like a rectangle around that and display that somewhere else. So just to give us a visual reference on that one, let's draw a rectangle around the mouse pointer and make it see-through so that we can see through it, something that we've not done so far. Let's do a rectangle. I'm going to do this at the mouse X, mouse Y. Let's maybe make it 200 by 200, quite a big rectangle. And just before, I want to say no fill. So I don't want to fill it with a color, which will make it transparent. Okay. Yeah. So that's allowing me to move this kind of box around the screen. This is just here for me visually as a kind of a tool and a thought process. When we know this works, we'll get rid of this. And what I want to do is I want to, as I'm hovering over, I want to get what's underneath, and I want to display that set of pixels in the top corner. Okay, I want to kind of move this around and put it in the top corner. Okay, just to start with. All right, so how am I going to go about doing this? Because you know, there's many complicated ways of getting at pixels underneath, but there's a couple of really interesting short forms. I'm going to come into the reference so that you can kind of see. And let's take a look at the image. There's a lot of interesting things that are going to show us in here what we can do. Just going to have a quick look. What we're going to look at is how we can use the get function. And the get function is really very, very interesting because it gets a region of pixels from the canvas. So because we've drawn our picture to the canvas, it's going to grab us a rectangular kind of selection of size. Okay. And so it should give us the exact kind of size that we width. Yeah. X, Y, width, and height. Very, very interesting set of stuff that we can do. This goes on into a whole lot of stuff around how we can build our own filters, how we can get at the actual color underneath, like the actual pixel data of the color of the picture, and we can start to manipulate that. But that starts to get a little bit complex. So wonder if there's something a bit easier. And not that you would necessarily know this because it's not as obvious, but if I come back to the image, this is what we've been doing so far. Display an image in the top corner, display an image, and I can set the size of it. Great, fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. I'm wondering if there's anything else that can do something. Okay, this starts to look like it's doing something here. Take a specific position and place it somewhere else. That might kind of work. So what we can actually see here is that the image command can also have like 8 numbers going on. That sounds like something we want to do. So right here, if we're just using the image with 4 numbers, that's saying top left corner for the X and Y, bottom width, bottom height, how wide do we want to draw that? If we use this with a bunch of other numbers, we can, it basically says, take that portion and put that portion somewhere else. It's not as intuitive, okay, which is why I'm putting this in right at the end when we've had a chance to play with some slightly more easier stuff. I'm just going to put some code in for now. It's not going to do what we want, but it's to demonstrate. So I'm going to say image img1. And what I want to get is I am going to get the 400, 400, and I would like it to be 200 by 200 wide. So I'm basically going to get this kind of square around here where the mouse is. And I want to put it in the top corner and still keep it 200 by 200. Okay, I've left a little gap here, and this is where we need to potentially do something to make a comment. But if I run this, what's happened is it's taken this top set of things, 0, 0, 200, 200, and placed it here, 400, 400, 200, 200. Okay, so I've actually got them the wrong way around. So that's fine. Let's do that the other way around. So that should be 0, 0. That's the destination, and this is the source. Let's do that the other way around. Okay. The problem is how big did I say my image was? It's 2000 pixels by 2000 pixels, which is really like, the numbers are not necessarily going to match up. So that eye there, where that eye is probably like quite far away. So if I want to put that in the top corner, I've got to remember that the image is 2000 pixels wide. So if I want the middle, I need to be at like 1000 by 1000. There we go. We can see that that's kind of got where the mouse pointer is. So we're going to have to do something that's not necessarily quite right, because if I just put the mouse X in here and the mouse Y and run this, although that the mouse is over this part of the cat, that's not relative to... There we go. There's a good demonstration. There's the box showing where the mouse pointer is, but that's where the ear is, because the picture is 2000 by 2000. So we're going to have to kind of do a little bit of maths, and this is not necessarily going to be the same for each of your pictures, because we're going to need to think about the fact that the mouse is currently going from like the width of the canvas, which is 0 to 800, and our picture goes from 0 to 2000, which is not right. Nobody, especially after having listened to me for like several hours, is gonna be wanting to do that kind of maths thing. So I'm gonna show you something that uses some local variables and a function that will take a range of numbers and move it to a different range of numbers, rather than resizing my entire cat picture, re-uploading it again, all the rest of it. Let's leave that as, and let's use some code to figure that out. Okay, we can use the numbers, or we can get the value of the image. So we're going to make some little variables here. I want the image kind of X and the image X. So I'll use IX, and it's equal to, and I'm going to use this function called a map. And the map function takes a variable, and it takes the range that it normally comes in. So say a variable goes between 0 and 1, and I want to make it go between 0 and 1000. And it does all that scaling and numbers and maths for us, which is really great. So I'm wanting to use the mouse X, and I know it goes between 0 and 800 because that's the width of the canvas. And I'd like it to instead go between 0 and the image 1 dot the width of the image. Okay. Now I could have put like I could have put 2000 in here because I know that my picture is 2000. But what if you upload a different picture, or what if you don't know the width of the picture, stuff like that. Okay. And then instead, I'm going to use this IX value here. Now, the maths may not be purely quite accurate enough, but hopefully they're going to be slightly more accurate now. So hopefully if I go left and right, yeah, that's not too bad. So like there's my mouse pointer. If I go over to the eye, that's not too bad. The maths might need to be a little bit different. But you can see that hopefully, yeah, it's not too bad in terms of the mapping. The Y function is certainly not right. So let's duplicate this as well. Var IY is mapping the mouse Y going between 0 and 800. We're going to fix that in a second. img1 dot height. So the height of the image. All right. Hopefully now I've got something that's a little bit more accurate. Not quite. Not quite. Okay. It's still not quite right. Any thoughts as to why it might not be quite right? And this is sort of complex at the last part of the day, and I'll tell you the answer, and that is because the mouse value does not go between 0 and 800. Our canvas is between 0 and 800 there on the screen, but our mouse actually goes from 0 to whatever the width of our screen is. Yeah, whatever our entire screen width is. So it's not actually 800, it's the width of our screen, which we can use the window width. I'm just gonna have to move this over so that that fits. And we can use the window height, which should be more accurate because our mouse goes all the way over here to the, goes all the way over to the left, like our mouse is all the way over here, right? And that's still being picked up. So this should be hopefully a little bit more accurate. But again, it depends on your window, whether you're full screen, whether your height and things like that. So you may have to adjust some of these numbers to get that accurate. But at the moment, yeah, it's really not working for my picture because it's not getting the correct values. But it's something that you can experiment with. Like I said, creating that kind of picture was through trial and error and experimentation. What you've kind of got is a sort of Adobe Zoom in a way. I mean, it's not lined up correctly. But you've sort of got a little kind of zoom function here with this kind of square that would enable you to look around. And of course, creatively, we've taken a section that is, oh, I didn't use that variable. We've taken a section that is, there we go, that is more like it now. We've taken a section that is 200 by 200 and placed it exactly 200 by 200. But there was nothing to stop us from messing with that. We could have taken this 200 by 200 square and made it be 400 by 400. So I'm going to take this tiny little square here and I'm going to blow it up and make it even bigger and lay it over the top. So now I've got a crazy zoom. Sorry to my cat there. You know, and we could have done something like we could have squished it, we could have redone it. So take a perfect square, but maybe let's make it be like, I don't know, a line instead. so that we can move around. It's just about manipulating shapes and things like that. Just we can't take this and put it inside a circle. It's just rectangles at the moment, and that would enable us to yeah, we can play and start to get some different kind of interesting ideas if we were to move along and you know, and relay this out. So what I did with the picture for this workshop was actually to just go and take lots of these squares and kind of line them up. And repeat it again and again. Rather than using the mouse, I could in fact use a random position instead, rather than necessarily selecting this. So of course you could, instead of using this mouse position, we could of course have had like a huge random position instead. And there's nothing to have stopped us making it smaller. You know, I'm zooming in and now I'm decreasing, as well as making that kind of bigger. So it's just how can we just use some numbers and some code to do something like, you know, a little bit different. We're getting this, we've got this kind of process and pipeline, you know, that goes through there. I'm just going to make sure that nothing's in the chat, that anybody. Error line 13. For Rachel, sorry, I've only just noticed that, and that was like 30 minutes ago, so apologies, Rachel. What I might do, Marta, if possible, is we could switch it so that if people wanted to ask questions and things, we could start to look at that in a moment if people wanted to. One of the final things I just wanted to kind of say is that if we want to share this anywhere so that people could see our work and stuff, we've got a variety of ways of doing this. What we can do is firstly make sure it's saved. Is if we go to File and Share, it comes up with a series of options of which we can share this with people. The main thing is the embed code at the top. If we were to click, you'll see it says it's copied to the clipboard. Iframes are how we, they're a bit like a picture frame that we put in our website with other content inside it. It's how you can embed like YouTube and, you know, and various other things and have them inside your site. So you could take this entire code and pop that inside. So if you use Squarespace or Wix or any of these others, or even if you use WordPress, you're allowed to put your own code in. Anywhere that allows you to put your own code, you could use that embed, and then that entire this entire sketch will be put inside that website. If you wish to use the edit, which is actually this code on the left hand side as well, which does mean that somebody would be able to edit your code, which is not necessarily what you want to do, but you could share that too. And if you wanted to share it in full screen as well, you could share that link too. And so, for example, if I copy this link and put it in the chat, which I'm going to do right now into the chat, panelists and attendees, if I put that link into the chat, you will be able to click on that link and it should show you this cat thing that I've just made in full screen in a new tab for you to edit and play with. But what it will do is it will, yeah, it will give you the chance to be able to play with stuff. So you can show your work without necessarily letting anybody edit your work, right? So that it's not too bonkers. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just going to give it a second then for the Q&A to come in, because we've got a few minutes, and then at the end I'm going to, you know, if we've not got any of that, or if we have, or whatever, I'll talk about next steps and where you might like to go next. The plethora of things that you can do with this. I mean, we've just got started. I mean, I've been teaching processing for and P5JS for years. And you know, there's many things that you can do with this, tons of interactive stuff that can be made, very complex things, and I'm more than happy to show some things and some code that I've made to give some kind of, you know, ideas and aspirations as well, along with some of the stuff. What I'll do is I'll pause for a second then, Marta, and I'll come back with a full glass of water, ready for some more talking, because you've all heard my voice so much, you can't get enough of it. All right, back in a second. Right, wow, we have nothing in the Q&A, which is good in a way, I suppose, and nothing in the chat. So yeah, I guess that will be the kind of end of this introduction. I guess for going forward, definitely check out the P5JS website, where there's a lot of you know, other kinds of there's examples, there's references there that you can open up, and you can kind of play with the code. I mean, even within, let me just file save, even within here, if we click file and examples, there's a lot of example you know, kind of set of a few ideas here where you can have a little bit of a play. There's a bunch of stuff here. Some are easy, some are not. But yeah, there's a plethora of stuff that's been created by a lot of people that will give you some extra stuff to have a play with and see what's possible. Code Academy have some P5JS stuff as well, and also the Open Processing is a website where a lot of people upload and share their code as well. The great thing about processing and P5 is that there's a really good, strong community because it's open source. There's a lot of people who share code, help each other out, things like that. So you'll find there's a really vibrant community of people that use this, and yeah, and often there's kind of events and workshops that are being held that you can drop into as well. So if you want to learn and do more, then that's absolutely fine. If people want more of this kind of stuff, you know, learning creative coding, feel free to pop that in the feedback. You know, if it's like, where do I go next? You know, there's plenty of ways we can go next, you know, including how do we embed this, you know, as backgrounds on our web page if we want interactive backgrounds. You know, how can we go further with this to do some really kind of high-end interactive stuff? Yeah, it's just the beginning. Yeah, and there's many things you can do. Hopefully one of the main things is thinking about structurally how these kinds of things work. It's also thinking about the language as well, like being able to have that confidence to communicate as well, some of those thoughts and ideas. And it's also thinking about, well, here's what I want to do, and finding the kind of syntax to help you make that choice and that decision as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I hope everyone's had fun. I hope they've been experimenting and playing with all different kinds of colors, shapes, interactivity. Looking forward to seeing some interesting pictures and things that you've made. Yeah, feel free to share with the hashtag. I think it's over to you, Marta, but I am also more than happy, you know, for to stick around and speak to anyone specifically as well if they so require. I guess I should stop screen sharing and jump back into the chat. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Don't forget to do your feedback, and don't forget to keep an eye on the Threshold Studios and the Digital Democracies website as well for future other kinds of yeah, great events that are happening soon as well. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care.